Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CPD Group podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. Today, we have Emma Marshall, who is the founder of MIM HQ and the Movement is Medicine method. Hello, Emma. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you very much for coming in to visit us. It's really kind of you to make the journey.
Not at all. Thanks for having me.
Super. So let's crack on with some questions then, okay? So can you tell us about your journey and how MIM HQ all came about?
Yes. So I worked in the music industry for about 10 years. And when I was in that industry, I started to get really weird health problems. And it was kind of like mystery illness. Like no one could really tell me what was going on. And it went on and on and on. And eventually my body just like collapsed. So in 2018, I was taken like seriously ill. And I went into functional medicine because Western medicine couldn't really help me that much. And I learned a lot when I was kind of looking at different alternatives for health, basically. And I was in treatment for about a year. They thought I had Lyme disease and I was poisoned by black mold that was in my house, and my system just kind of gave up. And when I was in recovery, it was during COVID, so there was no real support. I should have had like physio and, therapy and all sorts of stuff, and it just wasn't available. So when I was ill, I was not able to walk at points. Like my legs were really problematic and I was having seizures. So to get myself moving again, I was like, well, what am I going to do? And luckily, when I was younger, I was an athlete. So I used to play football to a really high level. So movement was always part of my life, but then so was raving because of my job. So I just was like, right, I'm going to just put tunes on. And that was my promise to myself, one tune a day during COVID times. And of course, everyone was on social media. So I just started to put stuff out on social media, just like, make sure you're dancing. And that's kind of how it all started. And then I did so much research into the benefits of dance and movement and rhythm and music on the body from a neuroscientific perspective. And then I also moved to Mexico, and I looked at tribes and how tribes use percussion in particular to help people release like trauma and stress. And I was like, well, our version of what they do in ceremony, where they like bang this drum and they've got like, different rhythms that the body then responds to, our version of that is raving. Yeah. So I kind of pieced all those elements together. So it was like the science, the cultural, and then the electronic music side of things, and then put it out into the world. And now we have MIM. Welcome to Movement is Medicine. My name is Emma. I'm the founder and creator of this methodology. We combine music with movement, with science, to give you an understanding of music and movement in a completely different way to you've ever experienced before.
It's completely changed my life.
It's a perfect way to get out of your head and into your body.
Learning the power of the music, the beats per minute, the drums, the percussion. Because of the music, it's just relatable to so many different types of people.
Everyone should have a go.
That's a fantastic journey, isn't it? A bit
Yeah.
scary to begin with by the sounds of it,
Yeah.
but ultimately you've come out with MIM, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us a little bit more then about how music and movement kind of affect the body and the brain.
So essentially, the nervous system is kind of the key for the movement side of things, because your nervous system is essentially the system that dictates like how you feel in the world. So you might have heard of fight and flight. Like when you go into fight and flight, you're in a stress response. And I think that the stress response is quite demonized. Like people are like, no, we can't have any stress. And it's like, but that's not realistic. Like we're going to be stressed, and we're going to go into these responses, and more to the point, we need these responses. So basically, movement and bringing yourself into the ability to just like move through stress responses is going to essentially reset your stress response and bring you back to baseline. Now, for a lot of people, if you said to them, right, get up and start moving, they'd feel really uncomfortable about that. Yeah, if you put some music on, they don't, because we naturally just tap our foot or like clap our hands or click our fingers. It's an automatic response. And there's reasons for that. The brain is extremely rhythmic. We've got brain waves, for example, and so when you're listening to certain music, that will change your brain waves depending on what tempos you're listening to, which is why people maybe are able to work to things like binaural beats, because the beats are getting their brainwave into a more relaxed state. You become more creative, but the same applies to electronic music because there's not a lot of words in that. So it's all about rhythm. That's what the focus of my work is on. It's rhythmic music. That also has an impact on your heart rate. So when you're listening to these loops, it will bring your heart rate into the same tempo and the same BPM basically as the song you're listening to, which can be extremely calming if you're listening to music, at 90 to 100 BPM basically, which is perfect for the workplace.
Yeah, so ultimately that kind of rhythmic movement and having music does help de-stress people.
Without a doubt, yeah. There's so much science behind it. And so your nervous system is a sensory and motor circuit. So when you're going into those stress responses, there are different chemicals and chemical reactions that are happening. So what music and movement are doing is they're signaling to the way in which your body's responding to stress. They're kind of bringing you back into the opposite end of that spectrum by activating the sensory and motor loops. So, for example, when you do play a tune and that tune has a rhythm to it and your foot just starts bouncing, that's your motor circuit activating, and that brings you into the body, which then brings you into the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you can't be stressed. It's not possible. That's why people love meditation.
Yeah,
That's why people love yoga. It's why people love going to the gym or running. It's a present moment experience with the body. Yeah. So music and dance do exactly the same thing, but they can also be applied whilst you're at your desk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. It really is. So looking more at the kind of training that you deliver at MIM HQ. Okay, tell us a little bit more about that and how you make it inclusive for everybody and accessible to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent 6 years in total developing it, and there was a lot of course, trial and error. That didn't work, that did work. And before I did it as a digital training program, which is what we have now, I was doing it in person. And so that feedback from people of all different types of learning abilities was really important to me. So I am not a massive fan of traditional academia. I think that there are way too many barriers for entry, and there's a lot of people, whether that's financial or even just what education they may have previously, there are a lot of blockages there. For me, I'm somebody that has really gained her knowledge through experience, and so I apply that into the work that we do. So the training itself is broken down into written, video, and then also practical modules, and so it's an embodied learning experience. We give people the why. So here's all the theory, here's all the science, but it's very digestible. Everything is broken down into layman's terms. You definitely don't need a degree or any kind of academia to study this. We've done that kind of for you. And then on top of that, you get the practical sessions, which give you the feeling. So if you've got the feeling of the how, and then you've also got the why, people are more likely to then embody that and take it forward. And that's how they make the best teachers.
Fantastic. I mean, your trainer program, you've got a program specifically to train people how to do this.
Yeah.
And to take their own classes, for example, those kind of things, which is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
So how does that help professionals go beyond traditional CPD kind of formats?
So we're working with a huge company at the moment, and we're kind of trialing it out. It's like a beta rollout that we're doing with the fact that if we're able to train staff in this methodology, we don't have to be this wellbeing professional that comes into your business. Somebody on your staff can do it. And therefore, it's cost effective, and also you're giving your staff extra education around things that they can also take away outside of the office. It is a kind of professional and personal training, which I think is quite different to a lot of other trainings that are offered under CPD, especially given the fact that these tools should be applied to the person first. It's not a case of, you're just learning something and then just kind of regurgitating it. It's no, you're learning something and then you're embodying it, as I mentioned, and then that makes you the best teacher. So for us, it's making sure that everyone goes through that process to at the same level, at the same time. Some people take a week to do the training, some people take 3 months. It's a 25-hour training, but it's totally up to the person on how much they can give to it. Bottom line is they'll all come away with the same information, and then they can apply that, and whether that's in a professional environment or a festival, it's still applicable, it still works.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned there, like, somebody from your work can take over the role and become that kind of instructor to lead these sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, is there kind of the ideal candidate, so to speak? And if so, you mentioned as well that you don't need a degree to get involved and to actually start taking part to learn how to do this. So who is that ideal candidate? And, what would be useful for them to already have done in the past to be able to kind of do this stuff?
I think our ideal candidate for this is just somebody, first of all, that loves music. That was the crux of me realising, like, who is our demographic. Because originally, when we first started doing this work, I was getting a lot of people, they were really into the movement side of things, but not so much the music side of things. So for me, I started to realise, actually, the best teachers here are the people that love music, because they're the ones that are going to want to explore that side of things in a more in-depth capacity, and then be able to take that, whether it's to schools or, businesses or whatever. So in an office setting, people that love music, they don't have to have any formal qualification whatsoever around like mindfulness or meditation or dance or anything, because at the end of the day, the actual methodology itself is just taking people through very simple rhythmic exercises. Anyone can do it. I've taught this to people in wheelchairs. We've got instructors that teach it in care homes. It's completely adaptable to whoever it is that you're training and that you're teaching it with. But the core methodology remains the same. You get people to find the rhythm of the music. And of course, the people that are going to do that the best are people that are listening to music constantly. So that's it. That's pretty much what I would say. If you've got a music lover in the office and somebody that is interested in well-being, that's your ideal candidate for the office.
Perfect. Good answer. I like it. Super. So talking about those kind of environments you mentioned there, the kind of the corporate, stressful environment, the school with a classroom full of energetic young people, let's call it. How realistic is it for, the instructor in those environments to kind of bring this method into their daily routine?
Very realistic. So another thing that I'm actually working on at the moment is I'm breaking down and doing new trainings. So it's going to start off with 4 and then I can build up from that. But these trainings are going to be a lot shorter. I'm going to bring them to you to get accredited, of course. And they are targeted at each sector. So we will have one for teachers, one for healthcare professionals, one for HR and corporate, and one for fitness and wellness professionals. They won't get the same training as the full methodology, but what they will get is exactly how to implement it already into their environment. So for a teacher, it will be, okay, cool, here's all the science behind, music and rhythm and dance. How do you apply this into the classroom specifically? And like in our full MIM training, that already exists, just not as a whole built out kind of individual practice. So it is very, very easy to implement this, especially given the fact that corporate wellbeing is now such a focus. Also, at the same time, like, we're really interested in working with more corporates to bring in this access point and say, okay, cool, which of your staff are engaged enough that we can then go on and train them? So therefore, maybe once a week, instead of you hiring an external Zumba or yoga instructor, they are doing this in-house for your company. And that's really how we see this being implemented. Instead of us sending people and us having to be this kind of middleman almost, we actually just give you all the education and then a business can take that over, or a school or whoever.
Oh, I would expect kind of engagement's probably a little bit higher within that kind of corporate environment if, the person delivering it is someone rather than an external person coming in. Is that
totally
true?
Oh, without a doubt. Because one thing that's been really interesting with the corporate environment and trying to navigate how to take it from a consumer built company into a corporate wellbeing company is looking at how the response is. And we always get the same feedback, which is, I feel kind of self-conscious sometimes around my peers in the office doing these exercises. And my argument is always the same. It's just do you want to genuinely learn something that's going to help your well-being and perhaps even your colleagues' well-being? Or do you want to sit there judging yourself and judging others? If you can understand just to drop the ego a little bit and get over that, then you are opening yourself up to such a huge variety of tools that can be applied at your desk. And somebody just tapping their feet and their hands will obviously obviously do a little demo, but somebody just tapping their feet and their hands to some music and tapping on certain points of the body at their desk whilst their eyes are closed is not that embarrassing. And I think that we really need to break down that narrative maybe that's in corporates. It's like well-being is essential and these little exercises are essential. You know, if you went into a corporate 10 years ago and you were talking about yoga and meditation, you were seen as out there, whereas now every single company books meditation and yoga instructors. So I'm like, well, when are we going to see the shift into bringing music into the workplace? And it doesn't mean that we have to create a rave. It just means that we can give people this like education, have them have their headphones in, and before they go into a meeting, they can do these exercises, and then they can go into the meeting genuinely regulated, able to, you know, talk properly, bounce ideas properly. Because the other thing as well is that, like, when you're in those stress responses, you're not a good leader. You're not going to be able to be your best creative self. The ideas will not come because you're focusing on survival. And so that's what we're trying to kind of put forward into the corporate space. Like, this is not just stress management. This is also focus, productivity, leadership, creativity. You know, these things are also really important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we, as a CPD accreditation organisation, you know, we're seeing a lot of training coming through for accreditation based around the corporate well-being space. You know, so it is obviously something that is, you know, becoming more and more of an agenda item for these larger organisations. You know, so you mentioned feedback there from the corporate space. I mean, what kind of, you know, feedback are you getting from the different corporate organisations that you bring these methods to?
It's really positive because they don't really have anything else like it. What we do is so niche. Yeah. It's niche for a variety of reasons. And, you know, when we think about music, I don't think that people think about electronic music and that partnering well within the workplace unless you're working in a music environment, for example, because of the association with hedonism. My argument and my PhD is literally on the opposite of that, which is actually electronic music is amazing for health. It's just about giving people the understanding as to why. And so, I mean, the other week I was taken to Germany for a company retreat, and I was doing this work and teaching this work to, you know, very kind of older white guys from Europe who had no previous experience of electronic music whatsoever. And they all got it and they really enjoyed it and they understood the science. And so it's about the delivery of this as well. It's like, I've taught this now in so many different environments. I've taught it in more creative workplaces, for example, ASOS. And then I've also taught it to like Adobe and those kind of environments that are always going to be more, I guess, open. But this company is a huge pharmaceutical company and they work with a lot of like, doctors and engineers and that kind of brain. And so it's like, if we supply the science as to why this is working, then the actual action is going to be way more received and people are going to at least give it a go. And the feedback is always like 90% loved it. So
excellent.
Yeah.
That's really positive feedback. Good stuff. I imagine in that kind of pharmaceutical environment, the science is incredibly important to people to engage, you know, because if they understand the theory behind what's happening, that they're more likely to engage and get involved. I mean, do you find that to be true?
Without a doubt. It's not even the corporate environment. That's just people. So if you give somebody the why, they will then do the how. And like, I know that because I'm like that. So when I was ill and I was going through this journey of like trying everything, like, as you can imagine, if you're under the bracket of like mystery illness and like no one really knows what's going on and you're having all these crazy symptoms, you will literally try anything and everything. And I did it. It was really extreme. I did, you know, the Western medicine route. I did the functional medicine route. I did the shamanism route and the plant medicines. I did it all. And I met so many people along the way that were like, I can fix you, or I can heal you, or I can help you. And then I'd be like, but how does it work? Like where, and I had that discernment the whole way along, because if somebody can tell me, well, this does this, and I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting, and I'm going to do a bit more research, and like I have that type of mentality and that brain to go away and form my own opinion on something, not just being fed like what I'm being told. And so I took that understanding for myself and I applied it into the whole business, where I was like, the only way, because this is such a, don't get me wrong, this isn't like a new concept either. Like, this is a very ancient concept where dance and music is essential for health and well-being, and there are so many different continents around the world where this is still valid, and it doesn't even have to be within like tribal culture. This is also looking at like salsa. You know, you go to Spain and there are 80-year-old women still salsering.
Absolutely.
And so for me it's like, okay, cool, where are we missing this, especially here, America, Australia, etc. It's just less of a cultural thing. Where we're doing it is in entertainment purposes. So you go to a rave, you go to a festival, you go to a gig, you go to a sports game. Those are the only environments where people are really like allowing themselves to let loose. So I think that for me, it's a case of if we can give people a real clear-cut understanding of why they love those environments so much, including sports arenas. You know, people are chanting, clapping, stomping their feet, singing, especially at football.
It's quite tribal, isn't
It's
it?
very tribal. That's how I got my dad into all of this, because I was able to explain to him from a football perspective, and he completely got it. And so that's, again, coming back to your point, the why is essential. And then people do it and they go, okay, cool, I feel it. I actually felt that. I felt that little, you know, maybe it was like tingling, or I felt that warmth. And because there's a point, for example, in your fingers. And your fingers are super accessible, obviously. And your fingertips are covered in thousands of nerve endings. So when you're squeezing your fingertips and then you're also listening to repetitive music, it will literally like completely reset your system. And it's so easy, yeah. And so when I explain this to people, and then I'm like, and as you're doing it, just notice where else you're feeling it. Because you'll squeeze your finger, but because it's obviously everything's connected, you might feel sensation in your knee. And that just also is a really great way to get people out of the thought processes, the overthinking, the anxiety, because you're bringing them back into the body without even touching that area. And that awareness, that body awareness, is all people are really looking for, even if they don't realise it.
It sounds fantastic, Emma.
Thank
Do you
you.
know, it sounds like you've really put a lot of work and energy into this, which is super. So, you know, you took the step, and you've mentioned there previously as well about having your additional courses CPD accredited. Now, what you know, motivated you to get the instructor program accredited?
Well, it was a no-brainer for me. It was to make it more official. You know, like I built a really strong following on Instagram. And what I was sick of was getting boxed into the whole like wellness influencer bracket. I was like, that's not what this is at all. I was like, this is deeply scientific. There is so much work and research that's gone into this. And so last year, I been getting a lot of feedback, making sure it was all up to my standard of what I felt like needed to be in this training. And then I got it to that certain point. I said, right, we're digitizing it, because I also can't continue to do this training on my own because I'm going to burn out. And then it's also not a scalable business. It's just me. And I don't really want to do this. Where I was like, if it's a digital platform moving forward, then we can just literally get loads more content, loads more courses out there, and then it will become a library, basically. So for me, accreditation was always something that I would have loved to do, because it was also one of the questions that I got asked the most. Right. So people that would find my work online, they go, oh, is it accredited? And I was finding it quite difficult, because I was like, I don't even know where I would go to get this accredited, because it's so many different things. And that's what makes it great and unique and special, but it also makes it really hard because there's no blueprint. I'm just like winging it half the time. I'm just like, oh, we'll just figure it out as we go. And so with the accreditation side of things, and when I realized that the platform that I wanted to build was a digital education platform, CPD made the most sense, because it wasn't giving it this like academic barrier. Again, like, the training is not complex, it's super simple. I wanted to make it as accessible as possible, but how can we obviously get it accredited and give people something back for doing this training? And that's where the CPD stuff came in. And then I started researching, and obviously because I had the PhD, like, you know, that proof of letter that I was actually doing it, now I had all the things ticked that I needed to do. And so took me like 5 minutes to find you guys, and I was like, great, because I looked at some others and it wasn't quite right, and I was just like, yeah, your framework is fantastic, and I think that, you know, you are going to understand what I'm trying to build here, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, the framework's there for that exact reason, you know, for people to kind of have a look at what we do, how we do it, those kind of things before they approach us, you know, just so that you've got a clear understanding of what we're going to be working together on, you know, that kind of thing. Your course is fantastic, by the way. I had to look at it before we came out,
Thank you.
so it's absolutely super stuff. And I really like the idea of what you're trying to achieve out there as well. So in terms of MIM HQ, what's next? What you got coming up? What's your next projects?
So yeah, main thing is me finishing these courses. I think that for us is really important to have that diversity. And just knowing as well, like there are so many people that don't want to do the full training because they've already got their own work, but they're very interested and engaged in what I talk about. So for me, it's like, okay, cool. How can I bring this to physios? You know, how can I get physios more into an understanding of how to utilize rhythm in their work with the body? Teachers, of course, etc. So that is like top focus for me at the moment, as well as my PhD. And then I have also just written a book. So that's just come out, self-published that on Amazon, Music is Medicine. So Movement is Medicine is the current, obviously, training course that you guys have accredited, and then Music is Medicine is the book more focused around music and culture. So they complement each other really well. And then we're working on some really big activations with global brands at the moment to bring this work into the real world, into club spaces. So should be doing something towards the end of June. And then, yeah, we can get this into as many different environments as possible. Club spaces is a big one for me because my argument is like, club spaces are the perfect place to host events that are non-raves. Like you can do fitness events in a club for sure, or wellness events. They've got the sound system, they've got the lighting, you know, they've got the security. But the business model for a lot of clubs is the bar. And that's, you know, something that I've been working on. Like, how do we all not be at a loss just based upon alcohol not being involved? And so now I've been working on partnerships for a while, and it's all paying off.
Excellent,
yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned a little bit previous about, you know, people being potentially hesitant to get involved or a little bit self-conscious about getting involved. What would be your message to those people?
I think that you just have to understand that music and movement and dance in our culture is not celebrated in the way that it should be, and it is around the world. Yeah, and the reason that people feel so free when they go to other countries where music and dance is completely normal and it's on the streets is because of that freedom. And so here, if we're consistently worried about what people think of us and we're shackling ourselves and we're just in this zone of like, yeah, overthinking everything, you will never necessarily find that freedom. And it's really important to break down those barriers within your own mind about how to utilize these tools for the better. And if it's really something that you can't get over, just keep your eyes shut. Yeah. And just block everything out.
Yeah, great idea.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, super. So we've done a lot of talking about your program and you know, music and rhythm being medicine.
Yeah.
Shall we try a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Definitely.
Super. Let's do it.
Cool. So we are going to do a little bit of the MIM methodology. So what we're going to do is we're also going to focus on stuff that you can literally do at your desk. So I'm going to get you to shut your eyes, as I mentioned, like blocking out everything around you. Mm-hmm. It's really helpful because it not only just obviously removes people and the judgment and all that kind of stuff, but what it does is it heightens your other senses. Yeah. So we're going to be focusing on the sound of the music and also touch. Right. So you're going to be touching different points and doing different exercises to the rhythm of the music. So all you've got to do is listen to that and then let your body respond and then listen to my instructions. Okay. But it's really simple.
Excellent.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So from now, eyes shut, and you're just going to put your hands on your chest and you're just going to start to tap on your chest to find the rhythm. And just let your body start to move to the music however it wants to move. There's no wrong way to do it. And as you're tapping and moving, I want you to start to breathe to the rhythm as well. That's totally up to you. You don't have to do it in any way that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but just find a little rhythmic breath that you can do in through your nose and out through your mouth as you're tapping and breathing and moving. And just notice how your body's feeling.
Relaxed.
Yeah? Perfect. And you're going to move down to your fingertips. And you're going to just squeeze each fingertip one by one. And again, just notice as you're squeezing those fingers, still connecting to the rhythm. Where else are you feeling sensation?
In my legs.
Perfect. So your body's signaling to you that that touch alone is bringing you back into your center. And in turn, that will help you to release any tension that might have built up. Good. And now we're actually going to move to the legs, and you're just going to tap on your knees. Again, find the rhythm. Take a nice deep breath in for 5 and sigh it out for 5. Good. And just move to your feet and just start to tap your feet on the floor.
I'm going a bit.
Drumming.
Yeah, I was getting into my drumming.
Yeah,
pose
perfect. Yeah, there's literally no wrong way to do this. It's just whatever feels good for you. It's like a call and response that your body is doing. And just focus on your feet and your legs. How do they feel?
Yeah, relax.
Good.
Like, heavy.
Good.
Yeah.
It's going to drop back in. And when it drops back in, you're going to move back to your ears. And you're going to just start to squeeze your ears.
Okay.
So you're going to squeeze and move to the music. Just like the fingertips, your ears are covered in loads of nerve endings. So really great place to come again in daily life, even just at your desk. Give your ears a nice little squeeze as you move to the music. And just notice, where else do you feel it?
I'm feeling that down the back of my neck.
Okay, beautiful. Again, your whole system is signaling to you that everything is connected in the best way possible. And now you're going to move back to your chest. One last tap and move on the chest. Take a nice deep breath in for 5. And then sigh it out just for as long as it needs to go. Good. All right, open your eyes. How you feeling?
I could go for a wee lie down.
Perfect.
That's
Perfect.
great. Yeah, you
So,
do
yeah.
feel a bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Just everything just melts.
No, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I like
And
the
that's
ear
it.
bit. I didn't realise that would have such an effect.
Yes, and this is it. It's just giving people, there's loads of other points across the body, which is what people learn in the training. And so when you apply these points, I mean, this is a super easy exercise to do. You can do it on the sofa, you can do it at
Absolutely,
your desk or whatever. But there are loads of points, like the bottom of the feet are covered in thousands of nerve endings as well.
Yeah.
So the feet, the hands, the fingers, the ears, top of the head, really great places to come to just whilst you're there working. Obviously, the ones that I did were the most accessible, but anyone of any mobility can also do this. There's so many ways in which we can get people engaged in movement, and it doesn't have to be, you know, HIIT classes or fitness classes as such. It's like, this is movement. Your body is moving and responding to the rhythm of the music. And in turn, it's going to allow that stress response to kind of like come back to normal, and your body will just melt.
Right, super. Because I'm still feeling a tingling sensation down the back of my neck and my ears without even touching them now.
Perfect. Yeah, you're just becoming body aware.
Yeah.
And that awareness will stick with you, and it becomes an embodied experience.
Right.
So next time you feel maybe a little bit tight or a little bit tense, you might come and do some of those exercises. And then the more you do them, this is where neuroplasticity comes in. So neuroplasticity is where you build new habits. Your brain literally changes the way in which neurons fire. And this is one of the best ways to do this, because any time that you feel yourself getting activated and you apply these tools, especially at work, you just start to reprogram your responses to stress, because stress is also a perception.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what you might be stressed about, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And so if you're somebody that finds themselves getting into that like dysregulated state and you're getting like really annoyed and really angry and you're just like up here, like doing those exercises will bring you back down, and then everyone's back on a equal playing field.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's really impressive.
Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed that, actually. Yeah, and I'm going to be taking that back to the office and
Perfect.
making sure that people have a think about that. That's superb.
Perfect.
I might even bring you in
Yeah,
one day. Just
I'll
to
come in.
down and
Yeah.
show everyone how to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Emma, thank you very much indeed for coming to join us. That's super stuff, and really good luck with your book, and good luck with the entire training program that you're putting together. It
Thank
sounds
you.
fantastic, and I really hope to see the other training coming through for accreditation, because I'm going to have a nosy at that myself.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Right, well, thank you very much for joining the podcast, everybody. It's been great to see you, and we will see you on the next episode, so keep an eye out on CPD TV for the next CPD Group podcast. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.